this. Like nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I share things in my life here. People slip into the DMs and say, like, talk more about yourself. Like, we
Oh,
don't
they
know.
do?
And well, I haven't. I know for you, you got a review or something. I talk too much about myself. Well, that person can suck my dick. I do have knee pads. I send them all over the world, put them on, suck the dick. It is what it is. Yeah, like, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm off center. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to a benefit. I mean, I do, I guess.
No,
I don't know.
I think nobody cares.
Do you
And
know
I
what I'm saying? Like, it's just these housewives. I mean, I say things about my life, but not really, and not like in a self-righteous way. Like, I think these housewives think like lifestyles of the rich and famous, or Vicky's Kodo insurance, and she boarded the plane and flew off to Mexico. Like nobody, like it's just, I don't know. They say it with like an arrogance. I'm like a fucking mess. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I have to get on a fucking flight to New York tomorrow. And yesterday I was so fucking hungover. I ate literally a whole goddamn pizza. And by the way, I think I have a whole conspiracy theory about pizza in Los Angeles. Just, do you have
Which
a
is
minute?
what?
Besides the fact that none of it's fucking good, I feel that there's one pizza place in all of Los Angeles when you order.
Ooh,
This
ooh,
shit comes to the house and it's always like a box. It has the name on the box. The pizza always looks the same and it always tastes the same. So I think Joe's is the same as Rocco. I think there's one pizza place. You go on DoorDash, you think you have choices of like 100. I think it all gets funneled to one place and it's all coming from the same oven.
Spring
Really.
Street, Mulberry. Where is it from?
Well, Prince Street is good, but Prince Street wasn't. And Mulberry is good too. Those are good, but they're not. Listen,
I
you
mean, it's
can't.
no New York pie.
No,
It's
no.
the water is so different. I mean, New York, you just
Ugh,
get that great water, those great bagels, that great, you
I'm
just get,
over
you
it.
can make good bread. Here, it's very hard to make good bread. It's just the water's so treated, you know?
If I wasn't such a fat ass, I would just say, when you're in LA, girl, you live in two other places, just don't order pizza. But I have an addiction. But the point is, I don't know. I find these women just take themselves too seriously. I think that's the problem with the Housewives podcasts.
Wait,
Not two T's because they're fucking messes and they go in. That's the formula. Yeah.
can we wrap up this pizza story? I thought you were going to
Oh,
tell us there was
sure.
only one place to order pizza in all of Los Angeles, and you were going to name a pizza joint. I'm
No,
oh,
there's a million, but when the pizza comes and you open
all the
it,
same.
you're like, this pizza that I'm ordering from Joe's looks really similar and tastes similar from Rocco's. So I think it's all, they give you 13
Do it from the
choices.
same oven.
But
I got it.
yes, that's what I
Um,
think. Okay.
I will listen for recon and for homework for this show. I will listen to Cynthia and Crystal's podcast. I can't say I'm too interested. Everybody, we know this from Vicky.
Hmm.
Everyone is trying to have the next two T's. And I think somebody will break through, but it won't be doing exactly what the same two T's are doing. And unfortunately, none of the housewives so far have had an
No.
idea. Lala is probably the most successful Vanderpump Rules podcaster. I have to imagine she's making a fortune from hers. I would pray to God at this point. I mean, she's had it for so many years,
These
yet
podcast
she's making
companies
a
all
lot of money.
suck. You and I have talked about starting a company. You and I have spoken to a very top podcast recently. And we were both dumbfounded after this call of just how in the dark they were with their podcast company, how much like we're like, God, if you and I started a company,
It'd be
we
game
would
over.
like, let me put it this way. If Sarah and I started a podcast company, which we've talked about before, I'm not sure we have some other plays in mind. We would be able to take every podcast on every podcast company, iHeart, we can keep going and make you at least double your money within like the first 3 months, I think. It's that simple. But the fact that these podcasts are so huge and they are so in the dark with really what the numbers are, and I'm like, oh man, you are just getting taken advantage of.
Taken advantage of. Yeah, I will listen, but I can't imagine that podcast is going to keep trending. I mean, and speaking of podcasts, Tom Sandoval returned to his. People are like,
Nice.
okay, great. And continues to say, well, Rachel is the person who she's the one that came to my house and took her clothes off in the pool. And I mean, I'm guilty, but she just really tempted me. And everyone's like, dude, you're still using this as your take? And he says, I was having a midlife crisis and she was just
Mhm.
there and nude. And oh, what was a man to do? I mean, just really, that guy doesn't help himself in any way, shape, or form. But
He
anyway,
says she came on, and is she it's yes, she came on to him and he was having a crisis, and she told him in the final scene, I knew you were having problems with Ariana. That's why I came after you. And basically she tried to sleep with every guy on the show, according to Tom Sandoval.
oh, and just it's so sad he had to fall for it. Anyway, I know we covered a lot of Vanderpump last episode, so we don't need to really go there, except for I do want to ask you very quickly,
Yeah.
what do you make of Rachel Goes Rogue has now been rebranded to Going Rogue and has been taken over by our friend Juliet Harris. Juliet Harris is her PR rep. And now Juliet is going to host the podcast. Rachel did her farewell episode a couple of weeks ago. You and I were like, is this really true? What do we make of this? And a lot of people, I've spoken to Juliet. We obviously had asked when Rachel still did her show. We wanted her to come on ours. We had said, we could do a pod trade, all kinds of things. But anyhow, the long and the short is a lot of people have very negative feedback about this. They feel that was this Juliet's plan all along? What do you make of this?
What they feel that Juliet got Rachel to launch it for a year and then just pushed her out of the way and said, "It's my time in the spotlight,
I
bitch."
don't know if that, but I had some people slide in my DMs and say, what do you think what's your theory, by the way, on Juliet taking over Rachel's podcast? It seems like Juliet just used Rachel to launch her own career and get fame.
Well, I didn't think of that. I thought of what you were saying. I mean, the fact that the podcast is still going, is this really Rachel's way of preparing for her VPR return? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I'm going to be curious. I want to tune into that podcast as well with Juliet because I'm interested to see where it goes. It had a real mental health focus for Rachel for it didn't last a year. And I hate being right. Unfortunately, I predicted a year ago when it launched last January of 2024. I said, give it a year because
Hmm.
people were like, oh my God, it's a top podcast. It's top 100 in the world. And this is her new career. And she's going to be an investigative journalist. She's going to be Elizabeth Vargas. We're talking like the, Dateline reporter, not the other one from the OC. We'll talk about her. But, people thought this was it. And she didn't last a year. So is this because she's returning to Vanderpump Rules? Is this because it wasn't making any money? I don't know. But to me, now I think it had to have been making money because Juliet's a smart businesswoman. So I don't think Juliet's doing this. I don't know. Is Juliet just doing this for publicity? I don't know. It's very interesting. I mean, I can't imagine these people are smart in Hollywood and it costs a lot to live here. I can't imagine they're doing it